Hi, my name is Wayne Cella, and I am the creator, co-writer, and co-director of Insignificant. Once the idea came to write Insignificant, it really it flowed. You know, Insignificant is not 100% autobiographical, but it is definitely, flavored by my experiences as a young man growing up in the 90s. The inspiration behind telling this story was to try to put something out into the world to let people know that they're not alone and that there can be some hope in getting through them, finding acceptance and kind of moving on and healing in your life. I think I focused on that for a long time, and then kind of as we were we were winding down post-production, I think it kind of hit me that wow, you're putting this very personal, pretty intense story out into the world. I think once I remembered why I had wanted to do the story in the first place, it was easy to get through that and kind of get myself back on the right track and put the story out. The process of writing Insignificant was perhaps a little bit different. I wrote, I think, the majority of the first 5.5 episodes on my own. Basically, John Manning is one of my best friends. We call him the script doctor. He's a wordsmith. But Colin, he came in clutch. So there was a point at which I was writing the scene. It's a very pivotal scene. There was a certain emotion that I was looking to convey to the audience. Everything I wrote didn't feel like it was getting the point across. But I reached out to him one night and I said, man, I'm really struggling with this scene. I sent it over to him. He took a look at it. He came back with great ideas and actually wrote the ending to that scene that I thought was absolutely perfect and was exactly what I was looking for that I wasn't getting to myself. Always a dream working with John and Colin. Yeah, and even saying that I'm the director is kind of a misnomer. I had a lot of help from Asha Brown, my best friend Aaron Shellhorn's daughter, who had, directed and written her own stuff. We sent her a copy of the script and she really liked it. We were so lucky to have Asha on board. Asha, kind of, I guess, served as, I would say, first AD, but that doesn't really do it justice. She was really more of a co-director, very collaborative between her and I. So we just decided we would share the credits because really it was the two of us all the way through. But yeah, so a huge thank you to Asha. But yes, I knew from the first moment that I would probably be directing Insignificant. So why Insignificant? It's kind of a layered answer, I guess. First, it was a song by one of my favorite artists. In listening to that song, I think kind of, for me, perfectly encapsulated where I was at that point in my life. When I was a 16-year-old kid, I felt insignificant. There's a lot in this world that can make you feel like you're insignificant. Ultimately, I think the final reason that I chose that title is just because I remember going through those issues in the early 90s and feeling very alone. I think that makes you feel pretty insignificant. Ironically, I think Insignificant is a series about finding acceptance of yourself and finding significance and realizing that you do have value. Casting Insignificant was a breeze. Colin was the first to come on board. We pretty much knew that Colin was going to play Anthony almost from when I started writing the series. I knew that was going to, require somebody that had, pretty good acting skills to be able to pull that off, because there is more to Anthony than meets the eye. I knew Colin had the talent to be able to do that. After that, we put out a casting call as we were getting closer to shooting. We were lucky to have great responses to the story. I think that was probably my first indication that people would be able to relate to the story. Emily Jane, was one of the very first auditions that we got back for Izzy. I knew almost immediately that she was Izzy. I just felt like she transformed into Izzy right before my eyes. And then the same with Drew, who plays Wes. I knew that Drew really connected to Wes. Drew is a good-looking young man, definitely resembles me when I was younger, and then when I saw his performance, it was a slam dunk. Trisha Sullivan, I reached out to. I had her in mind when I was writing the part, which kind of, I guess, leaves us with Keith. Keith is a social media influencer, and he struck me as this very genuine and sincere young man. It clicked, I took a chance, I reached out. He did such a great job with Miles. But yeah, it was an interesting casting process, again, because the story is so personal. At the end, we were super lucky to have such a great and talented cast. So what were the unexpected challenges in production? I think maybe this is probably more of a personal challenge, but seeing your story come to life is kind of daunting. There were some scenes that we filmed that just brought out a lot of emotions in me. It was kind of like reliving some of those experiences. I guess as far as other challenges in production, one of the things that happened that was just heartbreaking. So we filmed the first 6 episodes. Everything just went so perfectly, right? It was really, literally everything that I could have hoped for. I started to edit it. It wasn't too deep into that process that I realized I had some issues. We had a camera sensor failure that really made some of the footage completely unusable, and we had to wind up reshooting that stuff. That was very heartbreaking. We were gonna come back and probably shoot like 4 more episodes to close out season 1, and we had to pivot. We wound up having to put a lot of, our funding into doing reshoots on the stuff that we had shot already. Fortunately, I had a good group of people around me, because I'm telling you, there were points at which I was ready to throw in the towel. But fortunately, I have a good group of people around me, a good support system, and we were able to soldier on and come up with, I think, a pretty good ending to season 1 and get everything that we needed. A dream crossover. One of my favorite shows that's on television right now is Sex Education. I just think that show is awesome. And it would be interesting to see Wes and Anthony and Izzy and Miles kind of live in that world a little bit, and vice versa. But so yeah, I think that's probably one of them. I wrote Insignificant because I never felt like my story had been reflected yet, right? When we watch movies and television shows, we're looking for a piece of ourselves to be reflected back to us, right? That's representation. That's why that's so important right now. For so long, film and television was one-dimensional. I guess I'll leave it at that. But now we're starting to see other types of stories being told, and I think that's an amazing thing. But even through that, and there is some great LGBT content out there, but I just never felt like I found a story that resonated with me. I wanted to craft that. One of the shows that I think maybe came closest was a show called Everything Sucks. It ran for 1 season, which had so much heart, and that show was also set in the 90s. I guess those 2 shows, I thought both of those shows, Sex Education and Everything Sucks, are both they had a lot of heart to them, very good depictions of what it's like growing up and kind of coming to terms with all of these things that, that people have to come to terms with.
Springdale Academy has offered you a full scholarship.
I had gotten my grades back on track.
Congratulations, Mr. Connolly.
I had my best friends, Izzy and Miles, and I had finally moved on from the things that happened in my past. But they say you can never outrun your past.
I don't like feeling like a secret.
Now my dysfunctional parents, who can't agree on anything, are united in making decisions they think are best for me.
So you're going. End of story.
What's so frickin' exciting about being the new kid?
Those decisions are gonna bring me face to face with my past.
Why'd you do that to him, Anthony?
Is that why you don't want to go to Springdale?
And now, I have to start all over.
Just dark and moody all the time.
Wes?
Even with everything that happened in my life at the moment, I've never felt so insignificant.